Toxic recovery. Trauma recovery. Toxic recovery. Trauma recovery. Toxic recovery. Toxic recovery. Toxic recovery. Trauma recovery. Toxic recovery. Toxic recovery. Trauma recovery. Toxic recovery. Toxic recovery. Toxic recovery. Trauma recovery. Toxic recovery. Toxic recovery. Trauma recovery. Toxic recovery. Trauma recovery. Toxic recovery. Toxic recovery. Toxic recovery. Toxic recovery. Toxic recovery. Trauma recovery. Toxic recovery. Toxic recovery, yeah. Trauma recovery, yeah. Toxic recovery, yeah. Trauma recovery, yeah. Toxic recovery, yeah. Yeah. I'm sick of abusive, narcissistic relationships. Sick of emotional trips. Sick of the lies that roll off your lips. Play me like some type of script. Gaslight me to keep me in grips. Time to cut ties and quit with the snip. Ready to get on the path of toxic recovery. Trauma recovery, yeah. Toxic recovery, yeah. Trauma recovery, yeah. Toxic recovery, yeah. You said it was love and all of the above, but you wanna suffer, yeah. Trauma recovery, yeah. Toxic recovery, yeah. Trauma recovery, yeah. Trauma recovery, yeah. Trauma recovery, yeah. Trauma recovery, yeah. You said it was love and all of the above, but you wanna suffer. Trauma recovery, yeah. Trauma recovery. Toxic recovery. Trauma recovery. Toxic recovery. Toxic recovery. Toxic recovery. Yeah.
Disclaimer: I often refer to toxic narcissists and abusers as delusional, crazy, or mentally unstable. A, because it's true. B, because when we're in these situations, we give their behavior far too much respect, which keeps us stuck in the cycle for longer. It is my hope that my mocking of their behavior encourages you to take that respect away and see we at least deserve a couple of laughs for the pain and suffering we've endured. Now, if you've been diagnosed with a general mental health condition, please note that I am not mocking nor talking about you. That being said, let's get into it. Hello, hello, hello. Okay, hi. Sorry, I was a bit late today, but we are here. And today we're going to talk about, let's see if I can shift this to the beginning. Okay, great. I can shift it to the beginning without pulling it up. Excellent. Right. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about the smear campaign aspect of Blake Lively's complaint. I know I'm a little bit behind, but that's probably a good thing. That gives Baldoni a chance to actually file this report, this lawsuit he keeps claiming that he's going to file. Okay. Yeah, that would be good. Okay. So, we're going to discuss the smear campaign factor and the public reaction / PR reaction. We don't know which is what. We're going to talk about Blake and the Amber Heard connection, because a lot of people out here talking about the fact that there is no connection. And I want to make it very clear what the connection is, since everybody seems to be confused, especially those influencers who were really heavily pushing the Amber is garbage narrative. And then we're going to be talking about a little bit about Baldoni's suit, a little bit on the Times. I haven't got fully into that yet, so I'm going to touch on it and what people have been saying about it, and we're just going to close it there. Next week we're going to go fully into Baldoni's case in regards to what he's done, because as it stands right now, Blake has filed an official lawsuit to sue Justin for his sexual harassment and emotional distress and smearing her, basically. And Baldoni has decided to sue the New York Times, which I think is a red flag in itself, because I'm just like, okay, she's here, she's suing you, and you are suing somebody else about her. But we're going to get into that. We're going to get into that in a minute. That is already wrong. And there are a lot of people like, oh, well, he's going to sue. He says he's going to sue. And my point is, what's holding you up? What seems to be in the way? And I'm going to get into why I'm so concerned about his little detour in a minute. So let's get into the first of the red flags for me when it comes to this situation of the smear campaign, because the smear campaign itself, based on what Blake said in her complaint, sounds sound. We're going to go through it based on what she said happened. Yeah. So red flag number one for me is, which I kind of touched on before, was him hiring a crisis manager in the first place. If we're going by Baldoni's story, well, he has two going at the moment. One was that Blake was just difficult and just completely took over and was just a pain in the butt and was just this crazy control freak. Which doesn't make sense, because if that's the case, then that does not make for you to hire a crisis manager before the filming's even wrapped. That makes no sense. So if I go with that theory, she was just a pain in the butt. She controlled, she took over, she was a monster, powerhouse, all of that. A crisis manager, because that's going on at work, because you're not getting on. Dots are not connected. So if we go with the other theory, which was he was worried that she was going to speak out, which makes a little bit more sense. He was worried that she was going to speak out about what he'd done that he didn't actually do. This is the second story. He was worried about what she was gonna speak out about the sexual harassment that didn't happen. So then he got a crisis manager to protect himself from the false claims. This is the second story, which makes even less, it just makes equally no sense. It's like, okay, you signed a thing to say that, to basically confirm that the thing that you're saying didn't happen happened. And then you hired a crisis manager to make sure that you weren't falsely accused, even though you signed a document confirming that it happened. But we went into that in part 1. So guys, if you missed my part 1 that I did last week, check it out after this one, so that you can look at the sexual harassment aspect of Blake's story, Blake's complaint, before she filed an official suit. So either way, whether it was the I did this thing, but then I didn't do this thing, and then I was scared that she was going to falsely accuse me of the thing that I confirmed that I did, so I hired a crisis manager. You're not love, you did it, or else you wouldn't be hiring anyone, right? End of story. So there's no two ways about that. You did the thing, and then when you signed away your rights, because we spoke about that in part 1 as well, in the document that Blake Lively gave him to sign with the 17 action points on it, and the complaint and the 17 action points on it, it also says in this fine print, which I read to you, that basically everything is now going to go her way, right? So we know that. And what I wanted to say here is toxic narcissists and abusers will always smear you after mistreating you to cover their tracks and to punish you. This is standard behavior. So him calling in a crisis manager to cover his tracks for what he did is pretty standard protocol. Now, again, it gets a bit more complicated with the story when he turns around and says that he didn't do it. That makes no sense, right? But yeah, so that's red flag number 1. So we're just going to go ahead and assume that he did it because that falls in line with him wanting to hire a crisis manager in the first place. Otherwise, the hiring of a crisis manager makes no sense. It's a complete overreaction. What's going on? The signing of the document also makes no sense, but okay. So let's go to red flag number 2. Now, in Blake Lively's document, it basically outlines the kind of smear campaign they're going to do or how it's going to go, right? She says, it basically says on July 31st, following the recommendation of their publicist, Jennifer Abel, Wayfair, and Mr. Baldoni, retained a crisis communication specialist, Melissa Nathan, the one that was working in the Johnny Depp case as well. And her company, blah, 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 it doesn't matter. Melissa Nathan delivered a proposal to Baldoni, which included a website to discuss full Reddits, full social account takedown, full social crisis team on hand for anything, engage with audiences in the right way, start threads of theories, discuss. This is the way to be fully 100% protected, right? So Ms. Nathan also proposed the creation of social media fan engagement to go back and forth with any negative accounts. So, in translation, if you're on a social media platform and you're speaking on something that they don't want you to be speaking on, they're going to have basically trolls going back and forth with you. That's what that is, right? Back and forth with any negative accounts, helping to change narratives and change narratives and stay on track, basically, with what the narrative is that they want. All this will most importantly be untraceable. This is the smear campaign outline, okay? Now, I'm not even going to fast forward. We're going to take it step by step. As Ms. Abel described, The plan was to engage in social media mitigation and proactive fan posting to counter the negative as well as social manipulation. That's the outline. Okay? Clear. Now, areas they plan to target in this campaign. Okay? The plan to get ahead of the narrative, this includes suggesting misleading messaging, that production members lost their jobs due to Miss Lively take over and insisting upon involvement. Now, this is important because this goes, because it's really important to understand that when most toxic or abusive people manipulate, it's going to have a thread of truth to it. So what they've done is they've demonized her taking over, which was within her right to do, which was legally done in order to stop the sexual harassment on set. That is what the takeover was about. But of course, as toxics and abusers do, they concentrate on your reaction, not what they did in order to cause the reaction, right? So they didn't do anything, apparently. She just got up and decided she was going to take over. This is the story that they're spinning. And it's an easy one to spin because she did take over. Right? Number two, Miss Lively involvement. Miss Lively involved her husband to create an imbalance of power between her and Miss Baldoni. She involved her husband in the meeting. That is true, because she felt safe with her husband being there, and she felt intimidated going in with all of his people trying to argue her case, even though she had the legal document with her, which is understandable because she'd been sexually harassed all along. Right? So you could see it as creating an imbalance of power, which it wouldn't even have been created anyway in regards to, well, it would have done. It would have intimidated him more. It would have intimidated him more to have a male figure look him in the eye and dress him down. So that's fair enough. If you consider a situation in which she was being sexually harassed. So again, right, it's easy for them to spin that narrative because she did involve her husband. Miss Lively has a less than favorable reputation in the industry, so they were going to spin that narrative as well. Miss Lively had a clear, likely motive to bully her way into buying the rights for starts with, it starts with us. I think you mean it ends with us, but okay. It starts with us, the sequel. To the film currently owned by Wayfair. So she's bullying to get film rights. These are the narratives that they were planning on pushing. And I want you to be clear on the narratives that they were planning to push, because you're going to see this filter out later on. Suddenly. Okay? So this was the plan. This was what they were targeting. The other thing that they were going to target is to explore planting stories about weaponizing feminism and how people in Blake Lively's circle, like Taylor Swift, have been accused of utilizing these tactics to bully into getting what they basically, how people in our industry bully. And they bring Taylor Swift into that, right? So these are the narratives they were planning to spin. Now, I want you to ignore the baby bump comment. It's not relevant here. But here, in her complaint, she says, oh, by the way, give this video a thumbs up if you are enjoying the content. Make sure you give it a thumbs up. Let YouTube know that you like this content. Right. So on the August the 8th, 2024, Ms. Abel stated that the situation had moved from just monitoring and scenario planning to Miss Nathan, and me to Miss Nathan and me having to have off the record conversations with outlets such as Today's Show. Right. So here we have evidence, because this was in the document of a discussion between them, that there was manipulation going on via mainstream media, because Ms. Nathan was having off-the-record conversations with mainstream media. And as a result of the relationships she has with mainstream media, some outlets were gonna, some things were gonna be kept at bay by these social media outlets. Okay, so fast forward a little bit. Justin Baldoni says that they plan to do these things, but they never actually did any of it. Right? They never did any of this. The whole thing just organically just smeared the way that they planned to do it, but they never did anything. Even though there's conversations whereby it is confirmed that Nathan had conversations with off the record with mainstream outlets. What were they having conversations about if it was just a plan and nobody did anything? Key. Okay, next one. Evidence and boosting, and there was a whole bit, text messages involved, where they were talking about boosting and suppressing content. I wonder if I go into, I probably should have done this before. Yeah, no. We'll go into that in a minute. Right, okay. Right, where they were talking about boosting and suppressing content. So there were some stories that were going to come out about Lively feeling uncomfortable and all of that stuff. Nathan basically throwing a load of other stories at this point to basically suppress the story from being heard. So that's part of the job that they do, which is to suppress information and boost other information, which is what was done here. And Nathan says, all press is so overwhelming. We've confused people. So much mixed messages. It's actually really funny if you think about it. So that's what's in these messages. Her basically talking about how they managed to confuse everybody. Okay? With mixed messages to suppress these stories coming out. Okay? And there are a lot of people saying at the moment that these text messages are doctored. We're going to get into that in the next video. But these are everything in her statement. And you can see, again, I have put it in the last video that I did. There's the link for the complaint, so you can read it yourself. Everything she has written is dated, time-stamped. The text messages are time-stamped. You can see them by second thing. So there's no, oh, it was taken out of context. No, the times are in alignment. It's not taken out of context. It reads like it's supposed to read. Okay, another bit of misinformation, right? So that was just one incident of them suppressing content. Now, I want to be clear here about, we're going to talk about ethical and unethical crisis PR, because there's a lot of gaslighting going on where people are getting on social media and telling us that what Melissa Nathan did was normal. It is not. It is not. Okay. In her complaint, she basically spells it out. She's like, this crisis management plan went well beyond standard crisis PR. What Ms. Nathan proposed included a practice known as astroturfing, that's it, which has been defined as practicing the practice of publishing opinions or comments on the internet, in the media, etc., that appear to come from ordinary members of the public, but actually come from a particular company or political group. Very important. Astroturfing. This is not standard PR procedure, even for crisis management team. This is precisely the goal of astroturfing campaigns, to light the fire and continue to stoke conversations, secretly blurring the lines between authentic and manufactured content. and creating viral public takedowns. That is the whole point of this. This is what is described in pretty much what she describes in the basis of their takedown, but not all of it. Right? They didn't go into much detail, but it's basically what she's describing, putting in fake people to go back and forth with people. It's a very, very subtle way of planting seeds, right? It's not ethical. It's not standard procedure, but it's a known way that is in the industry for manipulating on social media. Publishing opinions or comments on the internet, in the media, that appears to come from ordinary members of the public, but actually come from particular company or political group. Okay? So them saying, oh, you know, what happened organically, did it, or was it astroturfing? Right? Because they're taking it from many different angles. They're taking it from the angle of, oh, we can plant some stories via mainstream media, but then they're also doing this astroturfing where they're going in underground and subtly influencing people and making it seem as though things are not what they are, as well as buying bots to boost the numbers, and so to speak. This is all unethical. This isn't standard practice PR crisis stuff. Now, you might think, well, you know, whatever. Here is proof that is not standard PR stuff. Listen to what he says, because it turns out that, you know, what she presented to Baldoni, he wasn't particularly happy with. He was just like, well, this is not really what I want. I want to bury her. Right? It's not sounding like you're going to bury her based on what you're providing here, right? So Nathan agreed, of course, they would do just that. They would bury her, but could not say in writing. We can't write it down. What does it say? We can't write it down to him. We can't write, we will destroy her. Imagine if the document, if a document saying all the things that he wants ends up in the wrong hands. So basically she's saying, I'm going to do it, but we're not going to write it down because we can't do that. We get into trouble. And here are the text messages confirming that conversation. So this confirms that it's not all above board. It's not all standard PR stuff, because why can't you just send that to him in a document? She's literally saying, well, we can't actually talk about this the way that you want to talk about it, because we would literally get in trouble, which is what it says here. Of course, but no, when we send over documents, we can't send over the work we will or could do, because that could get us into a lot of trouble. So here we've got it from her mouth herself, saying that actually we can't actually talk about what we will and could do, because we can't. It's below the radar, basically. It's what she's saying here. There's no ifs, buts, or maybes about this text message. It's very clear. Okay? He has to look at it as an information document for us to be armed with. That's all. Imagine if a document saying all the things that he wants ends up in the wrong hands. Again, she's basically saying, look, we're going to give you this, and just know that this isn't all we're going to do, but we can't talk about it. So this is all evidence that this is all underhand. This isn't standard PR stuff. Why am I stressing this? Because this lady gets on to TikTok to tell us, to basically try and gaslight us. I want you to listen to what she says, because I want you to be able to kind of spot when this is happening on social media. Listen to what she says.
Let's talk about crisis PR. Yes, I've had some mimosas. Yes, I've had some eggnog, or it's organic nog from Whole Foods. It's like almond milk with like cinnamon. It's fucking disgusting. I'm on the verge of sober. Merry Christmas. Anyway, let's talk about crisis PR. Anyone who's on here who presents themselves as a crisis PR expert, as a PR expert, as a marketing expert, who's on here with a rate card in their bio to buy courses or to like, buy their crisis PR services, unless they're on this app saying loudly and clearly, yeah, that's what we do. Yeah, we take money from people who are in crisis, who are having a brand image crisis, who are either being accused of something or who have done something. And we take their money and we build strategies and we show them how we can, for a price, manipulate media in their favor so that their brand image is restored, rehabilitated, and their accuser or whoever's image is discredited. And we also engage other agencies pending platform. If it's social, we engage social. And in doing so, we also social listen, marketing word, where we look and see how our clients' image, brand, social sentiment is spiking upward and how their accuser, op, whatever, is spiking downward. If they are not saying that as clearly as that, those people are just on this fucking app playing a character.
Okay. Do you see what happened there? She's basically normalizing what is happening here without actually saying that. She's got the Blake Lively thing in the background and she's saying, well, this is what they do. No, this is not what they do. What Melissa Nathan did is not what they do. It's so not what they do that she can't write it down. So sitting here and explaining what PR people do is just basically gaslighting, because that's not what we're talking about. Do you see what I mean? She's got the faces of them behind that. So it's just implying, do you know what? Everything you've heard about, Melissa Nathan doing all these terrible things, these outrageous things, it's not true, because everybody does it. But no, everybody doesn't do it, because you would be able to write that down. And there wouldn't be a state of you saying we can't write it down because we would get into trouble. Okay? So don't sit here and pretend like what Melissa Nathan was doing was standard crisis PR procedure, because it absolutely was not. So that was my first thing. I was like, don't gaslight us. I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed. And you see the way she comes over, like, I've just had some eggnog, but actually organic, and I'm just a little bit tipsy, and it's no big deal, really. I'm just going to plant these seeds of misinformation for you right now. Okay? But I'm just, Merry Christmas. Give me a break. Give me a whole entire break right now. Finally caught live. Happy Friday. Hi, happy Friday, Indiana moms. We're talking about, welcome. We're talking about Blake Lively and the campaign and her complaint. And basically the smear campaign that she proposed happens. Now, next week, we're going to be talking about Bo Doney and his counter-suing of New York Times, which, like I said at the beginning, doesn't make any sense, but whatever, we'll go into it. We're going to look at it from his point of view anyway. So there we have this one trying to gaslight us into believing that Melissa's fine. She didn't do anything wrong. They all do it. No love. Next. Wrong hands, blah, blah, blah. Next red flag, evidence of the smear campaign in action. The smear campaign that they put out as outlined literally shows up all over social media. But they are telling us that they didn't do anything. Even though we know that astroturfing actually exists, and that is what they were planning to put into effect. Because remember, she said it's got to be untraceable, which is astroturfing. Okay, all the things that she's mentioning and she's putting in this way and that way, that's basically what she's talking about. Okay, let's look at how this played out on social media, because this woman breaks it down perfectly. So
it's how familiar what's really interesting to me about the Blake Lively lawsuit is how familiar some of these narratives are that the crisis firm was allegedly pushing, because I saw them. in my comment section, in my mutuals comment section. It's like total deja vu. First of all, one of the main ones that I got in my comment section was that Blake and Ryan are at fault. They're the ones that took over the movie. They completely hijacked the film. So in the lawsuit, we can...
And remember, the reason why they took over the film is because of his sexual harassment. They didn't just take over the film, but again, they don't put that bit in. Okay, let's keep going.
And see that this was actually part of TEG's scenario planning document, where they say that we need to do things like suggest misleading messaging, that production members lost their jobs due to Miss Lively's takeover and insisted upon involvement, that she involved her husband to create an imbalance of power between her and Mr. Baldoni, and that also she had a clear, likely motive to bully her way into buying the rights for It Starts With Us. And there's more. Another comment I was getting a lot was that Blake is difficult to work with and that she's known to be a nightmare in the industry. And again, that was intentional, because here we have in the document that they're saying that they want to push that Miss Lively has a less than favorable reputation in the industry. There's even text messages of them talking about planting stories about how Blake is difficult to work with. And next, and honestly, this makes me feel super gross, there's records in the lawsuit about how the team would send back and forth negative TikToks about Justin Baldoni and basically have their social team go to them and like try to sway the favor in the comments back to Baldoni. One of the TikToks that's referenced, I'm pretty sure I know who it is. I'm not going to say because I don't think that's fair to them, but I was in their comment section. So who was I commenting with? And as a final note, and this is the thing that I think is really interesting, is obviously like myself and other people have been criticizing the marketing for It Ends With Us, right? Like we said, Blake was wrong for that. It was really disrespectful to domestic violence survivors, not in the best taste. A lot of people even cite that as the main reason they're upset. Who was I commenting with? And as a final note, and this is the thing that I think is really interesting, is obviously like myself and other people have been criticizing the marketing for It Ends With Us, right? Like we said, Blake was wrong for that. It was really disrespectful to domestic violence survivors, not in the best taste. A lot of people even cite that as the main reason they're upset with her. Now, what the lawsuit shows is that this was the agreed on marketing plan. And all the things that have been criticized about how it pivoted away from having anything negative about domestic violence, like that's all written out. That was the strategy. The thing is, multiple things can be true at the same time, right? Like, so these firms work because they amplify real things. So was the marketing for this movie bad? Yes. What did they then do? Amplified the negative reaction and had it targeted towards Blake. Has Blake done bad things in the past? Was she rude to a journalist? Did she get married on a plantation? Yes, all bad. But you don't need to be a perfect person to be a victim. And you can see evidence of it in this lawsuit. This firm was researching Blake, trying to find little things and then blowing it up to tank her reputation, allegedly. Thank you if you're still here. This video has gone on way too long.
See, that's the thing. You've got to understand that there are many different things at play, like hyping things up that are bad in the public eye and then suppressing other things. So everybody who's like here, like, oh, well, you know, she was married on a plantation, so, you know, she's a bad person, so I don't believe her, is eating up the smear campaign. Because what has that got to do with being sexually harassed at work? I actually had this, and I couldn't find it actually. I have it on my phone, but I couldn't find it to actually transfer it over. But there was a black woman saying, in fact, I'll find it and play it. Hopefully I'll play it here. Hopefully you can hear it. There was basically a black woman saying that she knew all along that, you know, Blake was lying. And, you know, there's all this information. Listen to this.
Just wanted to do a quick shout out to the black girls who knew that Blake Lively was lying from day one. Who didn't believe a word that she said and knew that the evidence would inevitably pile up against her. Yeah. It's called having divine discernment. Yeah. I knew that she was making that up. You had a problem working with Justin Baldoni, but Woody Allen was a joy to work with and an empowering force for women, right? Sure, girl.
So here's my problem with this. All the evidence would be stacked up against her. I just want to know what evidence she's talking about that was stacked up against her, because Blake still to this day has a signed legal document signed by Baldoni and his friend Heath, confirming that the sexual harassment actually happened and that they were going to take action, these 17 action points to make sure it didn't happen. Okay? So what proof did Baldoni come up with that trumps that? That's signed by them. So apparently it's all a load of rubbish. Yeah, I know Woody Allen is a massive perv. I'm going to get into that. Because apparently it's all a load of rubbish because of discernment. What discernment are you talking about? Because it's literally a literal black and white legal document signed by both perpetrators agreeing to change their behavior. I don't know what Baldoni came up with that trumps that, but apparently that's the receipts. And the receipt, another receipt for that is.
Just wanted to do a quick shout out to the Black girls who knew that Blake Lively was lying from day one. Who didn't believe a word that she said and knew that the evidence would inevitably pile up against her. Yeah, it's called having divine discernment.
What evidence piled up against her? I'm confused. I'm confused.
I knew that she was making that up. You had a problem working with Justin Baldoni, but...
So you knew that she was making it up because she had a problem working with Justin Baldoni, but didn't have a problem working with Woody Allen. Okay, we know that Woody Allen is an absolute perv. Not just excusing that at all. He's done some disgusting things. I want to vomit. My point is, because she worked with Woody Allen and she said that he was an empowering guy, she wasn't sexually harassed at her workplace by Baldoni. The dots are not connected. And also, you've got to bear in mind that Woody Allen was a perv in his family unit. He didn't go outright and perv around. So maybe she worked with him and wasn't sexually harassed. That is a possibility. That is actually a possibility, right? So because she wasn't sexually harassed by Woody Allen, it means that she wasn't sexually harassed by Baldoni. I'm confused. And because she had a problem with Baldoni, but didn't have a problem with Woody Allen. Well, she didn't have a problem with Woody Allen because Woody Allen didn't sexually harass her on set. Because I think that's what her problem is with Baldoni. Did I miss something? Tell me, did I miss something? That is the most ridiculous point I've ever heard. Well, not ever, but you know, it's up there in the rankings. So you knew all along that she was lying because she worked with Woody Allen. And she doesn't have a problem working with him, but she has a problem working with the guy that sexually harassed her on set. Somebody made that make sense. And that is the level of logic that we're working with here. That's crazy. I'm not defending Woody Allen at all. Let's get that right. But we need to make sure that dots connect when we think. And those dots do not connect. All right? Imagine Blake Lively behaved like this on a Woody Allen set or even a Christopher Nolan set. Okay, so let's think about it this way. She probably, let me think. How am I gonna, would she take them on? Probably not. I'll agree with you there. She probably wouldn't take them on. Those are big, Woody Allen's a big fish in the industry. So she probably wouldn't take him on. She'd probably do what most other women have been suffering with, and we're going to talk about that as well, because other women do speak out about the industry in the video, in some of the videos I'm going to present. Okay, so would she have done the same thing with a different set of people? I can't vouch for that. I can't tell you. You know, you pick your battles, don't you? I don't know. You know, but this one, she wasn't having it. So I'm not going to say because she wouldn't go and take on, I don't say, a Harvey Weinstein, for instance, that she wasn't sexually harassed in this field. Or she shouldn't take on someone who's below her, who's sexually harassing her. I'm not going to do that. You know what I mean? So I understand what you're saying, but I can't say, well, you know, because she won't take on the big ones, she shouldn't take on anybody. That doesn't make sense to me. All right. And I was saying last week that we don't know what her reasoning was for saying that about Woody Allen. We have no idea whether it was legitimate or not, because like we know, Woody Allen is a big fish in the industry. He could literally tank her career. Okay, so we don't know whether that was authentic or whether she was just playing a role so that she would be able to work tomorrow. We don't know. So looking at that and being like, oh my gosh, that means absolutely. Come on, guys. Let's be realistic. Let's go back to this. So we saw the whole thing playing out before our eyes. We saw all of the smear campaign. We saw it happening the way they said they planned it, but apparently didn't do. Convenient. Very convenient. Right? Off the back of a sexual harassment situation that apparently he didn't do, but then he hired a crisis management team anyway and signed a document saying he did. Anyway, who does that? Why would you? Anyway, let me not harp on about that. I did that enough in the last video. Let's keep moving on. All right, so smear cam, red flag number 7. The Amber Heard and Blake Lively connection. I hear a lot of people saying that there is no connection. They're completely different things. The guy on Popcorn Planet, he was a big pusher because I went around when this first came out to see what the people who were burning Amber Heard at the stake were now saying about this whole situation. And one of the ladies just skirted over it and pretended that, you know, didn't even talk about it in regards to Amber Heard. But Popcorn Planet said there was absolutely no connection whatsoever. That situation whereby the same crisis manager, Melissa Nathan, was involved in the takedown of Amber Heard, social media wise, and Melissa Nathan was behind the smear campaign of Blake Lively, social media wise. But apparently there is no connection. So let me tell you the connection. Bear with me, everybody. Okay, so they both took a stand. Both of them did. So Blake Lively was like, absolutely not. You are not doing this to me and other female members of crew. You're not going to do this. Absolutely not. She tried to speak with him about it. He wasn't having any of it. He was basically laughing in her face. And she said, okay, I'm going to get my legal team. I'm not having this, blah, blah, blah. Right? With Amber Heard's case, it was less personal than that. She wasn't even directly saying, I'm not having this Johnny Depp. She left him. She was doing her own thing. She was doing what she does before she ever met Johnny, which is advocate for causes. Okay, this one was around domestic violence and the sexual harassment of females in the industry and how they were silenced by powerful men and how powerful men were protected throughout this of any kind of sexual violence. This is what she was speaking up about. That's why she wrote the op-ed. She was making a stance for women in the industry. I need us to remember the point, because there was a lot of ups and downs around the houses and watering down and misinformation thrown around. The point, the reason why she was dragged into court was for writing an op-ed that didn't mention him by name at all, didn't even refer to him at all, but spoke about the sexual harassment and sexual assault and all kinds of things that were happening within the industry to women, and how powerful people were protected. That was her whole op-ed. Now, as a result of that, they both suffered a smear campaign, because remember, Blake took a stand, and as a result, well, let's just go with her theory. Blake took a stand, and as a result, the retaliation was that she was smeared, which is typical abuser behavior. That's what they do. They smear, right? Amber Heard literally suffered such a huge smear campaign by the same person, by the way, that it literally ruined her life. Right? So let's remember, she was taken into court for that op-ed and was asked to prove, that she was sexually assaulted in order to prove that her op-ed wasn't defamation. That was the point of the court case. So if you understand the point of the court case, you understand that she was going to lose from the beginning, right? Because sexual assault is one of the hardest things to prove in a court of law. Great, all of that. Hardest things to prove in a court of law. And she doesn't even have a rape kit. So good luck with that, right? How are you going to prove that? Johnny knew it. That's why he called in the cameras to make a spectacle of her losing. Because how was she going to prove that? They also suppressed half the information that they used in the UK trial. Half of that was suppressed. I don't know if it was technically half, but a lot of it was suppressed. So she was fighting a losing battle either way. The history of violence was suppressed, and then off the back of less information, she had to prove that she was SA'd. Good luck with that. And that smear campaign ruined her. Done by the same woman, Melissa Nathan. But apparently there's no connection. I'm sorry, how so? How? How is there no connection? I'm confused. Both of them. And the thing is as well, it was so twisted in the media. It was like, oh, she's running a smear campaign on me. Do you remember that whole thing? It's like, no, she wrote an op-ed for a cause that she believed in, trying to use her celebrity to push an issue that she believed in. That was never a smear campaign on him. But that's how it was spun in the media. And one of the things I started questioning the media from this point. I started questioning the media from this point because I was really weirded out by the way in which what I was seeing was not being represented in mainstream media. I'm seeing this in court, but nobody's talking about it in mainstream media that is supposed to be neutral. I'm confused, right? So here's this woman here, first person to come and gaslight us, because they're listening to what is being said in social media and they're responding as well. They're objection handling. If you've heard me talk about that, I spoke about that in the last video about Jay-Z, how they objection handle. And that's what they do. They listen for the comments that you make and then they start answering them. So there were a lot of comments coming around about the Amber Heard and Blake connection. On TikTok especially, people were like, hang on a minute, hang on, what? Melissa Nathan is the same one that did what? And it's coming out the same way. They're making these connections, right? So here comes this lady right here. Listen to what she says to gaslight us all. And if you were there, you know this is a straight up gaslight. Listen.
Let me tell you why I think that happened.
So she comes in like, I'm just going to tell you. First she establishes her authority as a person that you should listen to.
Has your opinion of Blake Lively shifted since last Friday? Let me tell you why I think that happened. Based on all the news stories that I read, researching for a Forbes article that I was supposed to publish 8 hours ago about this story, but it's so ever-changing, I couldn't hit publish yet. But I did an interview with NBC News Now, Tom Yamas, top story. Angle of that interview, it's about the downfall of Justin Baldoni. He was dropped by his agent, WME. An award of his was rescinded. He's in the thick of it right now. Now, if you're finding yourself on Team Baldoni or Team Lively, I just want you to listen to why I don't want you to be on either side. I want you to be right here.
Because it's part of the manipulation. If they can't get you on Blake's side, they need you neutral, so you're not fighting. You're not anything but Blake's side is basically it. Okay? So that's the angle. You're going to be on Baldonie's side or you're going to be neutral, so she's got no support. That is the angle. That is what they're pushing for. But let's keep going.
Focus on the real story. Who is the real victim behind the smear campaign? And it's PR. It's public relations. Now, disclaimer, I don't have any bias.
So the real victim is not Blake. It's PR. It's not the audience who are being manipulated into thinking certain things. No. It's PR. Are you seeing how cutely this misinformation is being delivered to you?
Towards Justin Baldoni or Blake Lively at all. I find Blake Lively to be vanilla, but I think that's part of the rub here. I find her persona has been shaped heavily by her husband, Ryan Reynolds. I have been watching those two in their publicity efforts for a while now. I personally have never believed that the two of them troll each other back and forth. I think Ryan...
Blah. Let's get to the point.
The Norwegian entertainment reporter who released her exchange with Blake Lively, her very real exchange. But in this interview where Blake Lively wasn't coming out looking so good when she asked about the baby bump, but then they also noted it wasn't the first time this reporter had posted a video aligned with a client of Ms. Nathan. In 2022, in the midst of Mr. Depp's legal battle, the same reporter posted clips of her interview with the actor. So in this story, they are trying to connect Melissa Nathan, Justin Baldoni's PR person, with this Norwegian reporter. The Norwegian reporter said, no, not true. So this article is all about the PR of it and the machinations. However, in Blake Lively's legal complaint, the number one part of that complaint is the sexual harassment. And that's what I think is getting buried under this smear campaign against PR. Now, Justin Baldoni. What I also know in that article, which I find interesting, which most PR crises start from, is some injustice. Now, Ryan Reynolds unfollowed Justin Baldoni, which was kind of a bing. That's why he likely hires someone who has a client roster of celebrities who have been called out for their sexual behavior with all these allegations.
I want to skip this,
he clearly knew that there was going to be trouble on the horizon. Did they design like a propaganda campaign against Blake Lively? Yeah. I mean, clearly they did. They wanted to prop up Justin Baldoni. So if you look at a lot of clips there in the press, you know, Justin Baldoni does talk about the care and the sensitivities that he took to filming those intimate scenes. So he knew that this was going to be a problem. Think back to why a lot of that negativity about Blake Lively took place. It's because they were taking excerpts of interviews and what she was like in real life. I mean, that was spinning a lot of the negativity against her. But Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively used the same PR tactics to get good press. For example, go to People Magazine and look at all of the articles. Go to E! News and notice all the well-placed sources saying negative things about Justin Baldoni. In fact, at the peak of the negative PR, People Magazine published an exclusive story with Ryan Reynolds about the problematic, complicated relationship that he had with his father. And he talked about Parkinson's disease. Now, it's good to highlight Parkinson's disease and the tragedy that brings on a family. However, Ryan Reynolds' father passed away 9 years earlier. Why is this article coming out right now when his wife is at her PR bottom? They're both using the same tactics. Now,
No, that's not the same tactic. This is what I'm saying. Like, it's like truth, and then lies. It's like that. That's not the same tactic. You talking up something. What? They're using the same tactics. They're getting other people. They're getting bots involved. They're getting people to go back and forth with people. They're not using the same tactics. Do you remember the tactics? This is why I went into listing out the tactics so thoroughly. Do you remember the tactics that were listed out? This woman is sat here saying they're using the same tactics and using the fact that Ryan Reynolds spoke about his father who had Parkinson's disease years ago as an example of them using the same tactics. That's ridiculous. Hey, let's keep going.
Legal filing. Yes.
Guys, if you're liking this, please give it a thumbs up. Let YouTube know you're appreciating the content. Let's keep going.
Melissa Nathan also hires like a fixer to go into, Reddit and start shaping opinion. But overall, for the most part, it's just PR. And it's pretty common in a lot of circles, but in entertainment as well.
Normalizing.
Amber Heard came out, certainly she did exclusive with NBC, supporting Blake Lively. Now, obviously, a smart move on Amber Heard's part because it gives her an opportunity to relitigate her reputation after what happened with Johnny Depp. Now, there's a little.
Amber Heard's been missing for a decade. Literally, I was going to say decade, but that's a bit of an exaggeration. Amber Heard's been missing for a while. She moved to Spain. She literally doesn't care. Like, she's saying, oh, she's coming in to like tactically repair her reputation. She let go of her reputation a long time ago. She moved to a completely different country. She's not acting anymore. She's not doing anything anymore. Her only motive for coming back to support Blake is because it's not really difficult to see. Blake is suffering the same smear campaign by the same person. So she feels like she wants to weigh in on it, which would be completely natural. This woman is spinning it like, oh, she just wants to repair her reputation. The woman doesn't care about her reputation. Her reputation is gone and dead. It's been dead and gone for a very long time. Let's keep going.
A lot of stories out there and a lot of evidence that shows the Johnny Depp era of that court case with Amber Heard. That was more of the Twitter era and hashtags and bots and paid, allegedly, all of that. But that's a little bit different than this Baldoni Lively case.
So it was the Twitter era and the hashtag era, was it? Because the documentary, Depp versus Heard, specifically talks about how TikTok was a huge, huge part of that smear campaign. As was TikTok a huge part of the Blake campaign. So was it different? Because it's not given different to me. Is it given different to you? I mean, love or hate Amber, tell me, does that give different to you? Because I was there at the time, and that story took TikTok just off the. So she's acting like people were just on Twitter doing this. No, that is not what was happening. And if you were there, you know that was not what was happening. There were memes going around on TikTok like wildfire about her testimony, about whatever they could think of. It was so significant that in the documentary, they mention it numerous times and how TikTok played a huge role in the dragging of Amber Heard. But here she is acting as though that wasn't part of it. No, it was different time, different thing. No. What are you talking about, miss?
Now, does it make it right? It depends on who you ask. Me, I don't find it ethical. I don't think that's ethical PR to use any type of bots or any type of paid propaganda to socially engineer someone's reputation, like going into Reddit and boosting certain posts and having different personas. I think that's unethical. Pitching the press in this lawsuit, what they're saying is, well, just because it's a Daily Mail and TMZ and it's not People magazine, no, it's all the same. So this isn't a story about the Justin Baldoni PR campaign. This weekend's story is about two PR campaigns because Blake.
No, that is ridiculous. So you're saying, oh, no. Yeah, what Melissa Nathan did was completely unethical. It's disgusting, and doing this and Reddit that and, hiring this and using bots. But they were both doing it. What are you talking about? Where's the proof that Ryan Reynolds' story was supported by bots and was on Reddit and people were bought out in social media, in mainstream media? Where's your proof for this? That is ridiculous. That's a completely ridiculous spin of the narrative. And that is what I mean. This is what they want from you. They want you to either take Baldoni's side or say they're as bad as each other, or just be completely confused. And you can hear her basically revving that narrative in her casual, I'm just here hanging out. I just thought I'd tell you that they're both the same. They're not both the same. That's ridiculous. Melissa Nathan and Ryan's team are not both the same. We already covered it's not the same kind of PR anyway. And then that whole, gaslighting of the Amber Heard connection, because they want to make sure that we don't make that connection. So they're going to come in, she's coming in, and other people have come in to say there is no connection when you have to be Stevie Wonder not to see it, is ridiculous. And I'm going to go ahead and play this now to make sure that you understand that there is 100% a connection. This is from the video that I made on the Amber Heard situation back then. And this is a clip in particular that I want you to listen to.
That I'd be. What, if any, discussion did you have with him about a smear campaign?
Johnny told me that he would ruin me, that no one would ever touch me, meaning professionally, no one would ever work with me again. That I'd never work again, that I'd be selling Depends, is what he said. And that he'd ruin my career, and he refused to not engage with, up until that point, he refused to not engage with the press by leaking.
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
How is that speculation?
She's talking about his team. Let's keep going.
This is what he's telling her, correct?
Right.
Okay. All right. I'll overrule the objection. And up until that point, I was trying to, get him to call the dogs off, call it off, because it was forcing me into a position.
Trying to get her to call off, trying to get him to call off his people, his smear campaign people, is what she's trying to do. This is the conversation she's having back and forth with Deb. Please stop your people from doing the smearing thing that you're doing, in translation.
Where he was calling me a liar and he was forcing me to prove it. And I knew that wasn't going to be good for him. But he was calling me a liar and having a really sophisticated, very, very well paid, very sophisticated PR machine.
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
Melissa Nathan, that's who she's referring to.
Speculation.
I never defend myself that way. I never see myself as a victim. It's too fault,
All right, yeah.
And when they came, I did not cooperate with them. It has been used against me, not by the media, by your side.
Listen to what she's saying. And it's been used against me, not by the media, meaning the media haven't picked it up and spun it. You've picked it up. Your team has picked it up and spun it.
What did you do once the ACLU had your agreement to be the spokesperson for the op-ed, to put your name to it?
I sought the advice of my attorney.
And why did you do that?
Well, because I didn't want to get into any sort of legal issue. I didn't want to have any sort of legal problems.
Okay, point is, she spoke about the smear campaign even then. On the stand, she's speaking about it. Nobody's listening to her because nobody believes her. But this is the thing that she's talking about is right here. And if you don't want to take it from her, you can listen to this woman. Here's what this woman had to say about it.
Only. And I must, I've been following, as a lot of people have, this situation.
Let me just go. We'll deal with that in a minute. Let's go back to this. So that's what was said at the time. Amber Heard talks about the team, the smear campaign, all of that. She just spoke about it on the stand. She made reference to it, which was the same team as Blake's team. Let's keep going. So, when I was doing the video about it, I was, again, giving it the side eye, giving social media as a whole the side eye, because they weren't reporting what I was seeing. That everybody should, if you're a neutral thing, you should be reporting it. Anyway, about a year later, or maybe 2 years later, the Netflix documentary comes out that exposes what was actually happening, what I was witnessing with social media that I didn't really understand, right? At the time, many years ago, well, 2-3 years ago now, right? Explain how Johnny Depp did the smear campaign. And it started, like I said, with the trial. He set her up for a situation that she couldn't possibly win. Then he made sure that there were cameras involved, streaming everything at all times. And then he was using all the reactions to spin off narratives about her and about him. This is important because you're going to see Baldoni doing the exact same thing in a minute. This is why I'm harping on about this. Now, the guy from Popcorn Planet was saying there's no connection to the Amber Heard situation when he was doing it. He never got paid by anyone. This is a very naive view. And if you watch the documentary, I hope you will now, it explains to you how people on YouTube were getting paid. No, they were not being approached by Johnny Depp's team and told, here's some money to say X, Y, and Z. What they were doing was they were doing what they do in the background, which is boosting content that spoke negatively about Amber Heard and suppressing content that spoke positively about her. That is why nobody believed that Amber Heard had any supporters until after the trial was over. After the campaign was over and everybody dissipated, then suddenly Amber Heard supporters were being heard. Don't you think that's convenient? And it's explained in the documentary how that works. So what happens when you're on YouTube and your views are being, your platform is being boosted, you're being exposed to a lot of people, guess who's getting paid more? Right? And they speak, this isn't just my opinion, they speak about this in the documentary, as in this is how they were getting all of those Depp supporting things out there. They were pushing content that spoke about it and making it go viral. So naturally, YouTubers who were not understanding what was going on really were just like, oh, I'm getting paid for this, I'm going to do another one about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, and they would just reel it, they would just churn it out, right? And that's how they got that viral moment where everybody was team Johnny Depp. Guess who did that? Melissa Nathan. Okay, so again, guys, I urge you to go and watch the documentary. They break down everything, and it also reveals that actually Johnny Depp did assault her on the plane like she said he did. And everybody witnessed it, even the people that came out and said that they've never seen him do anything, witnessed it, and they all lied on the stand, and it's crazy. It's in the documentary. Now, nobody wanted to watch the documentary because they all decided that they all were still set on the fact that Amber Heard's a piece of crap, and we never want to see her again. So you missed out on that information, including Popcorn Planet. He missed out on the whole way in which he himself was manipulated by social media. And to this day says there's no connection. Okay, watch the documentary, guys. I urge you. It explains a lot about the way in which social media was manipulated as a whole in that situation in order to manipulate the masses. That is the main bulk of what that documentary is about. It's not even really about, oh, was it Depp or was it Heard? It's about how social media was involved, impacted, and how that manipulated people. Influence the people, so to speak, right? You got to watch the documentary. It's very, very interesting. Next red flag. Okay, what other people are saying about this situation? Back to the current day and the Blake Lively and Baldoni situation. Here's what other people are saying about this situation.
Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. I've been following, as a lot of people have, this situation between Blake.
I think this is Kate Beckinsale. I'm not sure, but I think it is. She's an actress anyway.
Lively and Justin Baldoni. And I must stress, I don't know either of them. I've never met either of them, and I wasn't on the set, so I can't speak to any of that. But what I will say is, what it has highlighted is this machine that goes into effect when a woman complains about something legitimately offensive, upsetting, harmful, or whatever in this industry. So the general sense is, I've been on a film, for example, where I was, by the end of it, referred to over the walkie-talkie and to my face as that cunt, because I had said, I'm finding it very difficult. My co-star is drunk every day, and he's obviously going through something, and I have full sympathy for that, but I'm also waiting, as is the whole crew, 6 hours a day for him to learn his lines, and it means I'm not getting to see my daughter in the evenings ever for the whole movie. The studio's response was to give me a bike so that I could ride around the studio lot while I was waiting. And then, of course, I was called a cunt and a bitch. And at one point during a take, I was called, you stupid bitch. And then the director ran off crying. And I had to be the one to actually get him back and talk him off the ledge and us continue filming. I've had groups of people stand in front of me going, what the fuck are we going to do? How do we make her attractive? That's all. That happens to everybody. I was put on such a strict diet and exercise program on one movie that I lost my periods altogether. That's happened twice. I've been put in a situation, very unsafe fight situation on two different films with two different actors who sometimes there's a certain kind of actor who gets a kind of a thrill out of sort of legally being able to harm a woman during a fight sequence. And I was harmed to the point where there were MRIs proving it. And actually what happened was I was gaslit and made to feel like I was the problem, blamed and ostracized, left out of cast dinners, not spoken to. As soon as I mentioned that there was a problem, I've been forced by a publicist that I was employing to do a photo shoot the day after I'd had a miscarriage. And I said, I can't, I'm bleeding. I don't want to go and change my clothes in front of people that I don't know and do a photo shoot. I'm bleeding out a miscarriage. And she was like, you have to or you'll be sued. Harvey Weinstein, for example, absolutely famous, including me. If you turn down a film, this is without any sexual assault. I was one of the ones fortunate enough not to be shown a body part or massaged or anything like that. But if you turn down a movie or a production deal, he would get on the phone and talk to every director in town and every magazine editor and say, don't use her. And it worked. And it's really important that, whatever ends up happening with this case and whatever turns out to be, the outcome, this is going on. This has been going on forever. I've got about 47 million stories similar to this where you turn down I was actually at the age of 18, felt up by somebody that I really trusted on a crew, went to the lead actress who's known for being a supporter of women and said, this has happened, and was told, no, it didn't. Went to another actress and said, crying, I've just been assaulted by this man. Again, no, you haven't been. So this has just been going on forever. And what's really depressing is I see a lot of men going around saying, oh, it was very different a while ago. The climate's so different and it's so much better. It fucking isn't. And if you're a woman and you have a legitimate complaint, not, I don't have enough baby llamas in my trailer and I'd like more of a lion, but somebody's touching my boobs or calling me a cunt or calling me a bitch or whatever, you're fucked. On the whole, you're fucked. If you mention it, you're fucked. It's supposed to be that you absorb it and somehow then you're somehow the homie. That's got to stop. That has to stop. And I'm grateful to Blake Lively for highlighting the fact that this is not an archaic problem that no one's facing. This is continuing. And then when it does happen, a machine goes into place to absolutely destroy you. And I'm sure that's the case in other industries as well. And it's just got to stop. Sorry about it not being Christmassy, but I think it's really important.
Said by another woman who's not even saying, oh, I'm team Blake and I'm team Baldoni. She's saying, this is what happens in the industry. So people are like, oh, well, I don't, this is what happens in the industry. She said she's got a 1,000 stories with just her name on it. Okay, so this is an ongoing situation. This is an ongoing situation. Let's hear about what some other people had to say. This is what another woman, I think she's this one's less neutral.
So,
she's kind of,
as it turns out,
I think she's team Blake, but let's listen.
2 updates about Blake Lively. So, as it turns out, Justin, his business partner and his primary backer, They all belong to one of those weird Los Angeles cults. That's how they met and then decided to go into business. This is the same backer who, when he found out that Blake wasn't publicly supporting Justin, he said he would spend $100 million to bury her. He said that.
That's the same guy, multi-billionaire guy. Okay.
At a promotional event for the movie. Anyway, second update is that Justin's publicist and the PR crisis manager, both of whom were working together with the bot guy, and they're all named. Yeah, they got sued this morning by the publicist's former boss, because apparently the publicist and the crisis PR manager conspired with each other to steal clients, and then, this is the best part, breach contracts and forcibly break contracts. So yeah, I think that they are all having a bad day.
So these are totally ethical people, according to Boda and his team. According to what's out there at the moment, completely ethical. It's all above board. This is what they do all the time. They're getting sued, love. Okay, in the background, which of course isn't being mentioned.
A bad week, a bad holiday season. Do you think that that guy's going to spend $100 million to settle instead of trying to destroy Blake Lively? Something tells me that when you're a billionaire, it's just easier to write a big check than bother testifying.
I think that's what he's
Who
doing.
knows? Merry Christmas.
Of course. We're too messy to do anything else, especially at this time. They probably settled already. Next one.
Just 3 hours ago, Brendan Sklenar. And it just keeps getting worse for Justin Baldoni, because not only did SAG-AFTRA speak out, but Brendan Sklenar spoke out, his co-host for his podcast spoke out, and he just lost an award. Just 3 hours ago, Brendan Sklenar.
What I want to know is how much evidence do you want? How much evidence do you want in order to believe her? Because it's worrying for me that there are people out here going, oh no, I don't believe her. And I'm just like, based on what? She's got a signed confession, pretty much. And then co-stars, men and women, coming out who were actually there, who were actually on the sets, coming out to support her. Now, you could say, well, you know, she's got a great influence within the industry, so they're doing it because of that. They were supporting her before she even came out. They unfollowed him. He was doing the press tour on his own because no one wanted to be around him before she even said anything publicly. So let's keep listening.
Are posted to his Instagram stories the link to the lawsuit while tagging Blake.
Okay, so
and
this
he
is
just lost an award just 3 hours ago.
So the guy, the co-star who played the love of each other's love of the life, you know, the childhood sweethearts in the movie. This guy did this.
Brendan Sklenar posted to his Instagram stories the link to the lawsuit while tagging Blake Lively and wrote, "For the love of God, read this." Liz Plank, who was the co-host to his podcast, hasn't put out an episode, I believe, since the premiere of the movie, so we already knew something was going on, and now she put out a statement. I'm writing to you today to let you know that I have.
So she hasn't done a podcast with him since the premiere of the movie. So before the complaint came out, since the premiere of the movie, way back when Blake was being smeared, she hadn't done a podcast with him. And she's the co-podcast person. Read the signs, guys. Read between the lines.
I've had my representatives inform Wayfarer that I will no longer be co-hosting the Man Enough podcast. Thank you for.
So she hasn't done a thing with him, but then recently, since it's come out, she's
I believe
basically
since the premiere of the movie, so we already knew something was going on, and now she put out a statement. I'm writing to you today to let you know that I have had my representatives inform Wayfarer that I will no longer be co-hosting the Man Enough podcast. Thank you for trusting me with your hearts and stories and holding space for mine, and for making this show what it was. I will miss you, the listeners, so much. I love what this community created together with every fiber of my being, and that's because of you. As this chapter closes for me, I remain committed to the values we've built together. Thank you for being here, for trusting me, and for being by my side for the last 4 years. We all deserve better, and I know that together we can create it. And she also says this: I will have more to share soon as I continue to process everything that has happened. In the meantime, I will continue to support everyone who calls out injustice and holds the people standing in their way accountable. As for SAG-AFTRA, they have now come out condemning the startling and troubling allegations. I applaud Blake Lively's courage in speaking out on issues of retaliation and harassment, and for her request to have an intimacy coordinator for all scenes with nudity or this type of contact. This is an important step that helps ensure a safe set. Employees have every right to raise issues of concern or to file complaints. Retaliation for reporting misconduct or inappropriate behavior is illegal and wrong. We all have a right to be treated with dignity and respect on the job and to work in an environment free of harassment, discrimination, and retaliation. As for the Vital Voices Award that he received a week ago, he was presented this award by his co-star of It Ends With Us, Hassan Minaj, who hasn't said anything yet, but let's take a look at what Vital Voices had to say. The voices of Sol.
Why didn't he say anything? Why hasn't his co-star come out to say anything? Why? He was there. Why is he silent? Questions. Important questions.
Solidarity Award honors remarkable men who have shown courage and compassion in advocating on behalf of women and girls. On December 9th, 2024, we recognized Justin Baldoni with this award. On Saturday, December 21st, we learned through news reports about a lawsuit brought by Blake Lively against Mr. Baldoni, his publicist, and others that is disturbing and alleges abhorrent conduct. Communications among Mr. Baldoni and his publicist included in the lawsuit and the PR effort they indicate are alone contrary to the values of Vital Voices and the spirit of the award. We have notified Mr. Baldoni that we have rescinded this award. As you know, just yesterday he was dropped by his talent agency, WME. So yeah, definitely not a good 24 hours for Justin Baldoni.
Did you hear about the latest on the WME thing? In his claim, I will say this, in his claim, he says that, they dropped him because of pressure from Ryan and Blake during the premiere, right? So apparently, if I got this right, Ryan spoke to the agent, the representative, and basically pressured them to drop Baldoni at the premiere, according to Baldoni. It came out this morning that WME categorically say that did not happen, and actually go as far as to say not only did it not happen, but the representative that Ryan was supposed to have spoken to wasn't even at the premiere. That is how strongly they insist it did not happen. So yeah. Now there was this whole thing around the smear of oh God, I got to get into the critical thinking stuff. There's a whole thing around the smear of Blake about the way that she promoted it. Now the alcohol thing, there's no excuse for that. Promoting her line, stupid stuff, distasteful stuff. I agree. Now let's listen to what this guy says about the promotion, because he ties things together in a way that
Blake Lively here.
I don't believe any of this. Blake said wear your florals, but that's still feeding into the smear campaign, and I can bring the receipts to prove it. The outrage is over this video, which was posted to the official movie social media, where Blake says grab your friends, wear your florals to go see a domestic violence movie.
Hello, Hello, Blake Lively here. Colleen Hoover. And It Ends With Us is in theaters now, so grab your friends, wear your florals, and head out to see it.
How could Blake say such a thing? Well, as the complaint reveals, Sony had a strict marketing plan, which involved heavily leaning on the floral theme, including a number of floral pop-ups. But the very same day that that video was posted, August the 6th, a number of movie theater accounts, Event, Breeze, Marquee, all posted a promotion for the movie using the tagline, "Grab your girls, wear your florals." Classic Cinema managed the impressive feat of posting this tag 2 days before Blake said it, on August the 4th. But they were no match for Cineplex Albania's time travel skills, who managed to post Blake Lively's tag 4 days earlier on August the 2nd.
Bear with him. This is all proof that it was actually part of a promotional campaign agreed by everybody. This is all proof of that, because this is all happening around her. Everyone's kind of focused on her, which was part of the smear campaign, her doing it and her saying it and her making it inappropriate, when all of this was going on around it before she'd ever said anything, while she's saying it, and so on and so forth. And listen to the end, because he makes a very good point about Baldoni in this too.
The day before, August the 1st, the official It Ends With Us account posted this promotional video, which included sound bites from influencers who'd seen an early screening of the movie.
We're at Lily Bloom's flower shop, and we just saw It Ends With Us.
The movie is literally a perfect adaptation.
Blake Lively's performance was phenomenal.
I absolutely love this movie.
Grab your girls, wear your florals, go and see it on the big screen.
2 days before that, July 30th, the official It Ends With Us account posted this promotional video. How to plan the perfect girls' night out to go see a domestic violence movie. And their advice, grab your besties, grab your tickets, wear your florals. 2 days before that, July 28th, the official account had again posted soundbites from that early screening.
Exceeded expectations. Couldn't be happier.
Amazing storyline, amazing cast.
You have to see this. Really recommend every woman to watch it. Grab your girls, wear your florals, and go see it.
That was definitely not Blake Lively. The quote comes from a micro-influencer who saw a screening of the movie on July 19th. Marketing clearly loved the quote, though given half of the women in those clips were wearing florals, I suspect it was planned, and then used it heavily in promoting the movie. The full clip was posted to the official account on August 2nd.
We just saw It Ends With Us, and we're dressed in our best florals, of course. We had so much fun getting dressed with the girls. We haven't gotten dressed for a movie since last summer, but we gotta bring this back. We gotta bring getting dressed for the movies. So grab your girls, wear your florals, and go see it.
Promoting a domestic violence movie by telling your favorite dad jokes, that's just marketing. Showing you how to bake the cookies from the domestic violence movie, well, that's also just marketing. But Blake Lively repeating a tagline the official account had used multiple times before for well over a week, well, that's an unforgivable crime. But what we're not talking about is Baldoni, who was also promoting the film heavily using those floral themes, note the dresses, sought to capitalize on the backlash and asked his publicist to help him pivot to only talking about domestic violence, and how he wanted to post private DMs from survivors purely as a tactic to make him look good. And not only does all of this play into the perfect victim myth, that there's some impossible standard of conduct that a victim must meet in order to be credible. She's mean, she made bad decisions, she's doing it for clout, why did she say this now? Why did she make it public? All of which make it so much harder for the next victim to speak up and be believed. But this whole line of, I don't believe this unless he harms a woman I like, is patriarchal thinking to the core. That only women who are likable, who are agreeable, deserve to be believed, deserve to be protected. Disagreeable women, they brought it on themselves. So do make sure that you are sweet and agreeable. But it's also an example of how well we have been trained to avoid holding the focus on men's terrible behavior even for a second, without getting uncomfortable and needing to switch the topic. The story here is not how likable Blake Lively is, or about how tacky self-promotion is, or digging through her life to hold her account for every terrible decision. Important conversation, sure, for another time. The story right now is about the abusive and performative behavior of these men. It is about Justin using survivors' stories for his own self-serving benefit and working to destroy the credibility of his victim, and doing so while accepting awards and giving talks about the importance of giving victims a voice. And every single word uttered on this topic that is not about that not only helps him to preserve some measure of his reputation, but also spotlights how a man can literally detail his abusive and performative behavior in 4K, and we will still all make excuses and give him the benefit of the doubt. But the one thing we cannot forgive is a woman for being unlikable.
Bingo. I don't think, I literally couldn't have said it better myself, which is why I allowed him to say it. It's just that, guys. It's literally just that at this point. It's crazy. I don't know how much more this woman needs to do to show you. It's crazy. Leo says, to me, this whole thing is giving Ryan Reynolds and his wife versus Justin Baldoni. Actually, it's just Blake versus Justin Baldoni. Ryan Reynolds didn't file a lawsuit at all, actually. And anybody kind of bringing that into the equation is just trying to support the whole, oh, there's an imbalance and they're ganging up on Justin Baldoni. Ryan's there for support because he is her husband. That's perfectly natural. Okay? Whoever's trying to distort it into a we're ganging up situation is being ridiculous. That is her husband. She was sexually harassed. Very simple. Okay. There's some other ones that I want to show you guys. So I got to remove these first. Wait a minute. Let me just make sure, because I can't remember, to be fair, whether I spoke about the smear. I did. Evidence of the smear in action. I did that. All right. So we're going to get onto that in a minute. Let's talk about some other people who are actually Team Blake. We're going to talk about Team Blakey. Let's make sure that
suggest misleading messaging that.
No, we did this one. Let's move this away. Let's talk about the people who are talking from Team Blake's camp. You heard the Team Baldoni camp. You heard the Team Blake people. You've heard some people trying to neutralize the situation. You've heard it, right? So let's hear from some of Baldoni's, well, we've heard a couple of Baldoni's handlers come in with their casual, oh, we just had a thought, nonsense. Let's go into, so we did, oh gosh, I've lost track of where we are now. The smear, then we have this one, smear 2, and then we have 5, 6, and 7. Here we go. That should be it. That should be it.
That there's like a very interesting thing happening for some.
Right. Let's move that away. Next one. Let's just get these all up because it's going to take a while. Bear with me, guys, for a minute. It's not going to take a while. It's just going to 5 narrative.
Is allegedly prepared.
Move. Next one. Narrative. Justin's lawyer. Let's hear from him. And we've got them, and then we've got, what do we have? We have this is twisting the narrative. I don't know if I want to talk about that, but I will anyway. I'll put that in. And then we've got, let's see, one more. And that's it. All right, let's go back over here to the critical thinking woman. Here we go. A lot of people I've noticed on threads were talking about very well pointed, we're very articulate on threads, which is what makes it really interesting to watch the shift of narrative on TikTok to threads. Because on threads, people are like, yeah, this is completely outrageous. Baldoni is talking absolute crap. I don't even understand why people are even listening to him. His defense was not even a defense. It was rickety at best, right? But then we go over to TikTok and everyone's like, oh my gosh, Baldoni brought the receipts. And it's just like, what receipts did he bring, right? So the critical thinking aspect of things was a huge criticism on threads. Like, people who are Team Blake Lively are like, anybody who's supporting Baldoni is not critically thinking about the situation. And I find this really interesting because it's like, this person here who speaks, she's kind of like objection handling and using critical thinking in the reverse to support Baldoni. And it's very strange to watch because she literally doesn't have a point. But let's listen to this. And I'll point this out to you as we go along, because otherwise you might not catch it. She's team Baldoni. Let's listen to what she has to say.
I've realized that there's like a very interesting thing happening for some people with this Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively thing. And it's a very difficult time for the women who love going around and accusing everybody of having internalized misogyny. On one hand,
and people are saying that. People are like, listen, if you are not listening to a woman who has signed documents of two of the men who harassed her saying, yeah, we did this and we agreed to change. If you are not listening to the co-stars who are coming out and saying, this is what happened, this guy is not okay. If you are not looking at the very obvious divide between the cast members and him, if you are not paying attention to the people that who are dropping him left, right, and center, then you have internalized misogyny, because why? What is it that is getting in the way of you believing a woman saying that she's being sexually harassed? If you are dismissing all of that to just lean over to, yeah, but she was married on a plantation, then you have to question yourself. But she's here saying that that's wrong. No. You're just basically saying they've got internal misogyny, when in fact, apparently these people have a point. But carry on. Let's keep going.
you have seemingly like the blueprint of the man that you guys want, right? He's like,
and here's where she appears as though she's being neutral. Let's listen.
Accusing everybody of having internalized misogyny. On one hand, you have seemingly like the blueprint of the man that you guys want, right? He's like a male feminist. He talks therapy talk. He's like rebuilt himself to, center women and like all the shit. He says all the shit. He's got a man, but he's got all the things. Yeah. And then on the other side, you have the irresistible trope of white woman victimhood that you guys just love to glom onto. So it was kind of like, which way are we going to go? No, we're going to be on Blake Lively's side, and we're still going to call everybody a misogynist. This guy just came out with all the receipts. Do you guys, like when I read that she said that he sat in her trailer for 2 hours crying that she was not hot, like I was like, this literally sounds made up.
Okay, let's listen to this. She says, pay attention, guys. She says, this guy literally came with all the receipts. Now, I want you to listen for the receipts that she said he came with.
We're going to go, no, we're going to be on Blake Lively's side, and we're still going to call everybody a misogynist. This guy just came out with all the receipts. Do you guys, like when I read that she said that he sat in her trailer for 2 hours crying that she was not hot, like I was like, this literally sounds made up. I just don't believe that. Like, when you like have a difficult conversation with someone and then at the end they're like, you're yelling at me. And it's like, I'm not yelling at you. You just don't like what I'm saying. Like, you can't just like make things up. That's honestly what that seems like to me.
Okay. So, okay. Fair point. That is how some people communicate. But what has that got to do with these receipts that Baldoni brought? Because you're still talking about Blake Lively's complaint and saying that you don't believe it based on your opinion. Where are the receipts that you said that Baldoni bought? Because when you heard me talking about the sexual harassment and all of that stuff, you saw me show the receipts that she showed. Earlier on in this situation, in this video, you saw me show bits of the complaint, receipts to support the complaint. Where are the receipts that she said that he bought? Because she made that statement and then started talking about Blake Lively's complaint. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe she's going to make her point on the next bit. So let's listen.
And it's also like, let's go back to when she was like feeding stories to the press. It's like, she's like, he thinks I'm fat. And then she's like, he's so obsessed with me, he won't stop kissing me. It's like, does he want to objectify you because you are like so sexy that he can't even stop kissing you during a scene with a room full of people, or does he think that you're like so fat that he needs to put you on like a diet restriction? Like, what's going on here? And like,
okay, so that's her next point. She said when she was feeding stuff to the press. When was she feeding stuff to the press? I don't recall her feeding stuff to the press. I recall her making a complaint that was made public that spoke about him doing both of those things. And apparently because he did both of those things, it's hard to believe. Now, if you understand abusive people, you understand that they engage in contradictory behavior all the time. So what's not hard to believe? He's engaging in contradictory behavior while sexually harassing her, which is an abusive thing. What's not hard? What is hard to believe here? Right? So again, but maybe she'll make the point about these receipts on their next point, because that's all based on her complaint. Okay? She said Baldoni comes with the receipts. So maybe let's listen to the next one.
are you a girl boss or are you a baby infant? Because it's really hard for me to believe that Blake Lively, from everything we know about her, would just sit and let this guy that's like a lesser star than her sit and tell her she's ugly for 2 hours. Like, it's just, and then
okay, so she's like, is this woman a boss or is she a baby? Because I don't believe that she sat there and let him call her ugly for or fat for 2 hours. Okay, she didn't. Yeah, you're completely right. She didn't. She called her lawyer and she said, let's draw some papers together to stop this mofo from doing what he thinks he's about to do. Absolutely not. And he's not going to do it to me, and he's not going to do it to anyone around me. Hence the complaint. So no, she didn't sit back and allow him to do that. She did what she was supposed to do in order for protocol to take the necessary action. She reported it to him. He ignored it. He ignored it. He ignored it. And then she took it legal. So you're right. She didn't. Let's keep going.
So Ryan Reynolds had no problem with all of this while it was going on. He had to wait to have like a trick meeting at his penthouse and like call Justin Baldoni over and then like flip out on him. While, by the way, it said that their celebrity friends were coming in and out of the house.
There wasn't, as far as I'm aware, there was no trick meeting. What happened is she called her husband in on the official meeting in the office with all the other people. The new producer involved in everybody is when they got together to discuss the action points. Okay? And no, he didn't sit back and just allow that to happen. He berated him about fat shaming her and no doubt some other things, I'm sure. I'm sure he had a lot to say. I'm sure he had a lot to say. In fact, isn't that in Baldoni's complaint about, Ryan Reynolds berating him in front of everybody? Well, yeah, he would. You're lucky you're not in intensive care, my love. That's the way I see it. I'm like, you sexually harassed his wife. The fact that you can still move around and use your arms and legs is a blessing from God at this point, right? So, guys, give this video a thumbs up if you like it. Let me know your thoughts about what I'm saying here in the comment section.
Look at who she hangs out with too. Okay, this is a pattern. These people have just been getting away with it for so long that they thought they could keep getting away with it.
Did you hear that? Look at who she's hanging out with too. Wasn't that point 5 of the planned smear campaign that I spoke about in the first bit of this video? To talk about her circle and how they bully people. She's literally talking about it here, just so casually. Oh my gosh. These are just my points of view. But Baldoni brought the receipts that I just haven't mentioned even yet. But remember, he brought receipts that we can't detail because she hasn't mentioned them yet. Let's see if she mentions it now.
With it. They wanted that movie. She was like the girl in Willy Wonka where she's like, Daddy.
Okay, they wanted that movie. Remember the other point in the smear campaign plan. It says, I totally agree with your points, Angelina. Thank you for covering this. Thank you, Rochelle. Thank you. Remember the first bit. In the first bit of this video where I outlined the bits that they wanted to target. They wanted to talk about her circle of influence and how they bully. And then they want to talk about her motive for taking It Starts With Us. She's literally saying it in this casual video in her car. Oh my gosh, these are just my thoughts. My thoughts, because she brought the receipts. She still hasn't mentioned. Let's see if she actually mentions these receipts. Let's give her another minute.
Like the Blueberry Girl. Daddy, I want this movie. And they were like, don't worry, honey, we're going to get you this movie. And that's what that seems like to me. So you guys can yell at me all you want and be like, you're like a misogynist. No, I just have critical thinking skills. I just have discernment. You have so much evidence at this point to show you who Blake Lively is, and you just refuse to believe it.
This is a flip of the narrative. It's like, I have critical thinking skills. What did you critically think about, miss? What did this woman critically think about? Tell me in the comments what she critically thought about. She told us he had receipts. Where are they? Because all she did was just basically drag Blake for filth and say that she doesn't believe her complaint. That is not a receipt. Her not believing, you not believing her complaint is not a receipt. We need to hear the receipts that you say were so damning on Baldoni's side. And if you can bring some receipts in the comments, please do. Replay viewers, you're invited to bring the receipts as well in the comments. If you have receipts from Baldoni's team that you think trump a signed legal document confirming that they did actually harass her, and the co-stars coming out to support that, him being dropped from everything. If you have receipts that trump that, put them in the comments. Please, I would be interested to hear. We are going to go into Baldoni's ridiculous lawsuit next week, because what I've seen so far has been absolutely ridiculous. I'm just like, Baldoni, you're making, oh my gosh, it's pathetic. And that's what they do. Social media, when there's a pathetic argument, and I spoke about this with the Jay-Z situation. So it's not just about me being like, oh, well, the JC situation is exactly the same. When they were talking about, oh my gosh, he's coming back, he's fighting back hard. He gave a hard denial. He didn't give a hard denial at all. That was the most wishy-washy denial I've ever seen. It was about up and around the houses. It was ridiculous, right? And it's the same here. Oh my gosh, Blake, Baldoni's come with the receipts. What receipts? Tell me in the comments what the receipts were that disproved and debunked what Blake Lively wrote, with the dates included. Okay, that was what she had to say. Now listen to this lady and what she had to say. Wait a minute, should I talk about that? Where are we? I want to talk about, okay, let's talk about this new lawsuit that he did. First of all, the buildup was ridiculous. What they did here was they used the anticipation of a court case to spin a narrative. That's what they did. Okay? Make no mistake, that was all manipulation. Justin Baldoni reportedly is set to file a counterclaim against Blake Lively that will shock everyone. You know what's shocking everyone? Well, at least me, is his level of audacity. That is shocking me to the core. And what was it? This was on the 31st of December, this was, that he said that he was going to come out and do a countersuit, a counterclaim against Blake Lively. Right? And in that, he started speaking about how this was wrong and that was wrong and the other thing was wrong, basically spinning the narrative the way that he wants to spin it, with no evidence, because you don't have to give evidence when you're doing it. You're writing an article, right? You kind of have to give evidence in order to file a lawsuit. Hence why he's using the media to let you know the information, because you can't just file any kind of lawsuit going. You can't. You have to have some evidence to support what you're saying. right? But you can get on social media, and you can get on social media platform, certain media platforms, and talk crap. You can do that, right? So that is what he's doing. Because if you're going to file a counterclaim, why don't you just do it? Why don't you just do it, sir? Why are we reading about what you're going to do? And that was my thing. I thought last week when I was talking about the countersuit that he was doing, I thought that he'd already filed it. That's the thing. See, I was sucked into it too, right there. Because I thought he'd already filed it. I'm like, okay, this is what's going on. This is a new thing. Okay. Right? No, he hadn't even filed it. So what are you talking about? Why are you talking? File the suit and then talk about what you filed. That's how it goes when you are not just manipulating the situation. Now, you could argue that, no, you could, I was going to say, you could argue that Blake releasing her complaint was the same thing, but no, because she's come with the receipts. She came with the receipts. It's not a case of, oh, I think this and I think that, and here's a new newspaper article for you to read. No, she's like, here's the complaint. Bum, 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 bum. Receipts, dates, timestamps included. That is what you call a receipt. Right, so he's done this, and he did the build up to the whole I'm going to countersuit, but then he didn't actually countersuit. I said toxic narcissists and abusers will always use manipulation to cover their manipulation, and that is what he's doing here. That's all he's doing here. Manipulating you further, spinning the narrative. Because at the end of it, after all of this talking, he then filed a suit against the New York Times. Does that even make sense? Why are you attacking the New York Times when Blake is literally suing you and you're going off to sue the New York Times, but you're going to do it about Blake, so that's okay? No. You just want to use the New York Times lawsuit to continue to spin a narrative. If you go to Blake directly, when you come with your BS receipt, she's going to shut it down directly in front of you, right? It's going to be a bum, 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 bum. Your lies aren't going to last 2 seconds. However, if you sue somebody else, she's not going to be able to come with those, you know. It's not a back and forth and a back and forth. So he can spread his lies around. It's going to circulate for longer. That is what I think that's about. Because even if you want to go for the New York Times, why don't you go for Blake first? Surely that makes more sense. It's like, you know what? Let's take her down, and then I'm going to go for the newspaper and take them down. You don't. She's suing you, and you're suing someone else. What are you talking? What are you doing? So for me, that's already a red flag. It's already a red flag. But listen to what this woman says about this situation, which I think is a confirmation of the spin of the narrative. Listen to what she says. Well, she doesn't say it. She just basically reads the article.
Explosive fight back against Blake Lively. That is according to the Daily Mail. And Allison Boshoff, who wrote this article, said a source who was involved in the situation tells me, do you seriously think that Blake Lively, married to one of the most powerful men in town and represented by one of the most powerful publicists, is going to sit meekly by if she was harassed on a film set and then hang on for 4 months after the film is released before making a complaint? It makes no sense. The source adds, look, they never...
And that is why he's written the article, to talk about this nonsense. What is this? What is the opinion of the source got to do with you doing, suing?
Got on. Justin is very spiritual, kind of unusual person. He is what you might call hippy dippy. He thinks he can talk to dead people. Would he have said that he had spoken to Blake's dead father? Yes, absolutely. Did he harass her? He says no.
Okay, so let's listen to that. So here he is, spinning the narrative that he's just this hippy dippy person, and him mentioning numerous times, talking about Blake's recently dead father numerous times isn't emotional and psychological abuse at all, even though she keeps telling you not to. No, it was just him being kooky. He's a spiritual guy, you know? Would he have done that? Yeah, probably. He's a spiritual guy. What? What are you doing? You're spinning a narrative take your papers and take them to court and sue her like you keep saying you're going to do. And that way we can understand what legal stance you have to do and say what you're saying. Because if you don't have a legal stance, then you can't say it, right? Let's keep going.
Rubbed each other up the wrong way. She has taken lots of conversations which they had when he was trying to be her friend, when they were friendly, and weaponized them. And the nub of legal action, which
All right, so it wasn't sexual harassment. It was him being friendly with her and her just taking it the wrong way. A misunderstanding, that is. Okay? What, every single time with every single thing? Huh?
Baldoni's attorney, Brian Friedman, spent the past few days...
Funny, like I said in the last video, it was funny how there were no misunderstandings after she legally got him to sign and agree to change his behavior. He says he wasn't inappropriate at all. So why did you bring in a crisis team? Why did you sign documents to say that you were? It's not making sense, sir. It's not making sense.
Preparing is Lively's complaint, unusually submitted to the California Civil Rights Department rather than a court, is a ploy to rebuild her public image. Author of this article
said, let's listen to this
and weaponize them. And the nub of legal action which Baldoni's attorney Brian Friedman spent the past few days preparing is Lively's complaint, unusually submitted to the California Civil Rights Department rather than a court, is a ploy to rebuild her public image. Author of this article says that
at least she submitted to somebody. What are you doing? You're writing articles about the fact that you're going to.
Their poor relationship on set was no secret, but the backlash that Blake Lively...
A lot of heavy projection going on here. Lot of heavy projection. He's basically just saying what he's doing as an accusation to her. Have you ever heard the phrase, an abuser's confession, an abuser's accusation is a confession? This is the perfect example of that. Is the perfect example of that. Like he's accusing her as he's doing the very thing that he's accusing her of doing.
Had received grew on its own accord. Certain things had researched.
Yeah, that's what the astroturfy is designed to look like it grew on its own accord. Yeah, that's why it's so underground. That's why it's so covert. Guys, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Let YouTube know that you like it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section.
Surface organically, like her 2012 wedding on a plantation and that 2016 interview where she was rude to the interviewer. She says that these stories were not planted, they had came to light organically. Allegedly,
Okay, so they just came up on their own. They weren't boosted by anyone. You know, the story from years ago just came up on its own. It wasn't boosted by anyone. Unlikely.
Baldoni's camp says that they have proof that the untrue stories about him were spread around town by Lively's publicist, Leslie Sloan. One of these stories claimed that Baldoni was the subject of 3 complaints to his film company's HR team. His lawyer, Brian Friedman, will say that this is untrue. And sources also indicate that...
Okay, did you hear this story? Did you hear this story? Because apparently this is part of their mastermind smear campaign. Did anybody? I didn't hear the story. Did you hear the story? It's a very ineffective smear campaign if it is. Nobody heard it. Blake's team of trash, if that be the case.
Allegedly, there is evidence which proves that Sloan was involved. Sloan, who is Blake Lively's publicist, claims that a journalist had reached out to her about the HR complaints against Baldoni after an anonymous tip-off. She said, after that, I was contacted by various press outlets asking about allegations of HR complaints. When contacted, I responded to press questions by referring them to Wayfair or Sony. It's clear that Mr. Baldoni and his Wayfair associates are suggesting that I originated press stories about HR complaints on set, which is false. In her complaint, Lively claims that Sloan, who is not named in the law...
So basically, she's saying people were coming to her and asking her questions, and she was referring them to Wayfair.
Lawsuit, and referred to only as her publicist, had no idea at all about what was going on during or after filming. Blake's filing read, indeed, throughout the time period discussed herein, Miss Lively did not provide her publicist with details about the hostile work environment that she, along with other cast and crew, had experienced. This article claims that Baldoni's countersuit will also say that the accusation...
Exactly. I heard all the lies about Blake. Exactly. That's what I heard. I didn't hear anything about Baldoni. I didn't hear a thing. Again, replay viewers included. Guys, let me know. What did you hear about Baldoni during the time of the smear of Blake? Because apparently they're saying it was happening around the same time, as I understand it. I didn't hear anything.
Of a smear leveled at Crisis PR's Melissa Nathan and Jen Abel are in themselves smears. Nathan and Abel will contend that the text
Okay, let's hear this. Something about the fact
claims that Baldoni's countersuit will also say that the accusations of a smear leveled at Crisis PR's Melissa Nathan and Jen Abel are in themselves smears. Nathan and Abel will contend that the texts that were included in Blake Lively's complaint have been edited and presented in a way that gives an inaccurate and damning impression. And it was believed at first that all the text messages that were included in Blake Lively's complaint were subpoenaed. However, it came to light that they were not. Allegedly.
It didn't come to light that they were not. It's never come to light that they were not. Only people saying like this that they were not in articles. Yeah, exactly. Allegedly, it's not come to light that they were not subpoenaed.
So it seems that Stephanie Jones, who owns Jones Works, who was at that time actually under contract to Baldoni's wafer, had handed over the text messages to Lively's team. And lawyers for Lively confirmed that they obtained them via subpoena order made against Jones. So this brings up the question as to whether the subpoena was a cover for Jones to pursue a grudge against Abel, her one-time employee who left. Baldoni's lawyer Friedman says that Jones took her employee's phone and used its contents to arm Lively's team because Wafer had told her they wanted to end their contract with her company, Jones Works. And Friedman says that
point is, subpoenaed, not subpoenaed. The point is the text messages are there and they tell a very, very clear story of what was going on. So I don't understand why we're going back and forth about that. But anyway, when Ryan and Blake married at the plantation, they apologized for their mistake. Yeah, I heard that just recently. I finally heard that they actually apologized for that. So I'm just like, why are we still talking about that? So it's not like they purposely got married on a plantation, or maybe they did and then they didn't realize that it was an issue still. Explained they didn't know. Okay, so they didn't know and picked the spot from Pinterest. Okay, and gave a charity donation to try to make amends. Okay, so this thing that they're being burned at the stake for is about her being married on a plantation that she didn't know that she did. Are we actually for real? And that was my thought around it. I was like, yeah, okay, so it wasn't the best thing to do, but, and then I found out that she apologized for it. So I'm just like, why are we still talking about that? And why are we using that as evidence? Not that it's even connected even anyway, but it's even less relevant now because she apologized for it. So she clearly tried to make amends. So it's not like she's this morally distorted person whereby she just doesn't give a crap, which is what is being circulated in the media. And even with the Woody Allen thing, I'm like, okay, why is she doing that? Is there some sort of situation within the industry where she needs to do that, or else she's going to be living in Spain alongside Amber? Do you know what I mean? Like, what is going on? Would only people who have never made a mistake would only people who have never made a mistake be protected? Exactly, that's what I mean from sexual. That has been my point. Sexual harassment at work, of course not. There's no protection. There's no perfect victim. Exactly, that has been my point from the beginning. I'm just like, how is that even relevant? How is that even relevant? And it's really interesting how race is always brought into it as a way of defending disgusting behavior. Like with the Jonathan Major situation, it was like, oh my God, they're trying to take down a black guy. JC situation, they're trying to take down a black guy. With this situation, it's like, oh, she got married on a plantation, so you must hate her because, you know, it's always, whenever the race card is always pulled, guys, black people especially, look at it, look at the other side, please, of what is going on to make sure you're just not being handled using racism. Because that's what I see happening there. It's just like you're just being handled. Because I don't understand what her being married on a plantation has to do with her being sexually harassed at work. It's like night and day. They do not correlate. Let's keep on going with this though.
Faced with losing another client, Jones resorted to her well-reported tactics and attempted to decimate her own client. And Jones is now suing Baldoni for allegedly breaching a contract to pay her $25,000 a month from May 2025 and claiming that Abel and Nathan orchestrated the smear campaign against Lively behind her back. Source says the people who say that Blake Lively was the victim of a smear campaign are running one themselves. We have a great deal of evidence from emails and WhatsApps and other records which will show that this is the case. And Matt Bellany, who's a Hollywood author, said,
okay, if you have a great deal of records from emails and WhatsApp, why haven't you filed your lawsuit and shown us this information? That's what I mean. It's a lot of talk. It's a lot of narrative spinning. But where is the, I'm going to need you to produce the facts.
This saga is far from over. We're about to get a look behind the curtain of Hollywood's smear machines. And yes, I used the plural.
And that's what I mean. So now they're painting the narrative, oh my gosh, it's a war of the smears. I was smearing, but she was smearing. No, she was not. She was going about her business, drinking her water and minding her business. That's what she was doing, and you dragged her for filth. But now they're trying to reframe it in the media as this battle between the two things. Are you hearing they're just as bad as each other? Are we hearing that yet? Because that's going to be the new thing once they finish confusing you and telling you, you know, he has a great case too, and then filtering in that, oh, well, she was smearing too. Where was the smear on her side? Because up until that complaint, I heard nothing bad about Baldoni. And if she's such a powerful woman within the industry, this is what everybody's saying, right? She's this powerful person with powerful contacts and all of this thing. You'd think her smear would be a bit better because it was literally non-existent. So what's happening? They're not making sense. They're not making sense. Let's go back over here. And then, you know, after all of this big talk and this rewriting of the narrative and how much, you know, receipts he has, he then comes out to say he's suing the New York Times. Like, that's relevant. Like, can we get, it's now the 3rd of January. We've still not heard anything about this suing of Blake Lively, who is directly suing you. Which is not the actions of a person who's like, oh, you know, I'm just making it up. They don't go out and go, do you know what? I'm coming for you with all my lies right here. And he's running in another direction. Does that look, this is not fitting for me. I don't see how that works. Here, again, I think this was a lawyer person. Yeah. 100. Listen to this. It literally reads like in the, again, the Depp situation, the lawyers were asked if they did a smear campaign, and literally what he says is what they said word for word, almost word for word. Let's listen.
Was there a coordinated smear campaign to bring down Blake Lively?
100% no.
Do you plan to sue Blake Lively?
Absolutely.
You will?
Yes. We plan to release every single text messages between the two of them. We want the truth to be out there. We want the documents to be out there. We want people to make their determination based on receipts.
Why don't you want to take that to court? You plan to release all the text messages. What, like that released all the audios as a way of being transparent? No, you want to start a smear war. It's not even going to be a war. It's going to be like, they just want to start another smear campaign that drags her to hell and ruins her life. Why are you releasing the text messages to the public? Why aren't you taking her to court? Why are you not defending yourself against her in court? Why are you not counter suing with all of this information that you have? That you got so many receipts that you're not using them. It's not making sense. Help me to make this make sense. He's being debunked at the moment by his own words. Not hers. And then this other woman, she goes on to spin another narrative. Well, no, let's go on to this bit first. So from Baldoni's live, what am I talking about? Lawsuit. From Baldoni's lawsuit where he's suing, I haven't looked into it 100% yet. I will do by next week so I can give a breakdown of it. But he basically says, here's his first argument, which I think is just it's all ridiculous, but here we are. Right, so I've been going back and forth with people on threads, and the big one that people are saying from Baldoni's team is he signed the legal document. Him and Heath signed the legal document, but they didn't see the list of 30 complaints. They just didn't see it. That's his defense. That's how she managed to get a legally binding document with him basically confirming that he sexually harassed her. Now, he didn't see the 30 things, even though that doesn't make sense if you watch the first part of my breakdown of this, because he responds to it saying he understands Blake's complaint. That's basically what he says, but apparently he didn't see it. Okay, so he didn't see it. He saw the list of 17 action points, but he didn't see any of the complaint. And they had a meeting based on the complaint that he didn't see in order to instigate, initiate or implement the action points. How likely is that, guys? Tell me in the comments how likely it is for a businessman who owns a film company to sign documents and not read them. And for that to happen twice, because both of them signed that. So none of them read the list of 30 complaints? Okay. She took over. That's a big one. And that is all part of the smear campaign in the first place. That's the one that he's saying she took over. Well, yeah, that's what she said she was going to do, and she did it. I don't understand what I was berated in front of colleagues. Yeah, because you sexually harassed his wife. This is where he talks about Ryan Reynolds. They smeared me. Basic Davo. We don't really need to go into that. You know what I mean? That's what they do. You know, it's like narcs abusers will always misrepresent the facts, a lot of the time using some truth or projection. And this is what's going on here. He's just pivoting on the truth in order to either project or misrepresent the facts. A lot of it. So you can't really say, and that's what makes it really hard when you're defending yourself. Well, luckily, in Blake's case, she's got it in black and white, so it's not harder for her. But in general, it makes it hard for you to defend yourself against a narcissist or an abuser because they plant their lies from the ground of truth. So when someone asks, well, did you take over? Well, yeah. But, well, then he's right. You see what I mean? But then you've got to go through explaining why you took over and this, that, and the third in order to untangle the lie that they presented, right? I was dropped from the WME because of Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. Remember, I was talking about that earlier. Basically, Ryan talking to a representative that wasn't even at the premiere. That thing that I spoke about earlier. Basically that. These are just this is what I've got from the situation so far. Absolute nonsense. And I think I'm going to leave it there because I had a few other videos, but I don't really want to go on for much longer than this. I think I've made my point. It's just a lot of objection handling. There's a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff, a lot of objection handling, a lot of BS basically going on with no facts to back it up. And that's what's worrying. And people are taking his side based on that. Bottom line is, I still believe Blake. I believe Blake. And what it seems that they're trying to do at the moment is they want you supporting Baldoni being neutral, or just completely confused. And did I read the part where they basically spoke about that? Oh, everybody's confused. I did. I read that bit earlier where she was talking about, oh, everybody's confused. It's funny, really. They put so many mixed messages in the press, you know, to do something that they said that they didn't do. They didn't do the smear campaign, but they put so many different things in the press that the audience is confused. And they were laughing about that. So that's what they want. They want you supporting Baldoni. They want you neutral, saying that you don't care anymore, or they want you confused so that you are not. Whichever way it goes, you're not supporting Blake. That's what they want. All of those outcomes are okay for them. You know, you saying they're bad as each other, that's another outcome that neutralizes the situation. As the guy said, any conversation that isn't actually talking about what he actually did isn't a conversation. Why are we looking at her and asking, she told you what happened? Now it's time to assess him and his behavior, not to assess her and her behavior and her history and where she grew up and who she speaks to now and who she hangs out with. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be looking at Baldoni and going, okay, about you. Let's look at what she says happened. And now let's look into you. We're not doing that. Why are we not doing that? That's worrying to me. And the fact that this is so acceptable is so worrying to me. It's acceptable for someone to come out with a signed legal document from the people that harassed her saying that that happened, and for people to still go Team Baldoni. That worries me. That worries me a lot. But anyway, I'm just going to leave it there. I had a couple of other videos to play, but you know what? I'm exhausted. I'm just tired now. Everyone on the set that doesn't work for him or his production company spoke out against him. That was the other thing, confirmed Blake's claims in Blake's lawsuit. Exactly. That was the other thing. And I don't understand it. It's like people on Blake's team are talking, people on Baldoni's team are talking against Baldoni. What's not clicking? What part of this is not clicking for you? This woman who she's talking about misusing critical thinking. She has critical thinking skills. That's the biggest joke I've ever heard. That being critical is not what critical thinking is about. Just being critical, just full stop. That's not critical thinking. That's just being critical. You got to flip both sides of the coin. Run both scenarios till it doesn't make sense. I do it all the time. I ran Baldoni's scenario to the point where it didn't make any sense. And it was literally 3 sentences in because the guy's not very good at it, right? So it's just like, okay, you're not making sense. Got it. Next one. Okay, you're not making sense. Got it. Next one. Okay, that makes sense. But then if you look at it like this, it doesn't really make sense. That is critical thinking. Y'all need to, this is why I started this channel in the first place, to encourage us to actually critically think about things. So next week, even though I think he's an absolute piece of crap, we will be talking about his complaint, his legal thing, which I think is absolute nonsense. But we're going to run it. We're going to run through it. And we're going to see exactly what he's saying. And we're going to pull it up against Blake's narrative. And what she said happened, and we're going to talk about it because that is what critical thinking is all about. Okay, so basically that's what I've got so far. I mean, like I said, I'm a little bit behind. Everybody's kind of talking about the Baldoni lawsuit already, but we'll get into that next week, Friday, because we can't stand by and just be manipulated in this way so freely. It's crazy. Whilst they tell us they're not doing exactly what they're doing. It's no. It's not acceptable. It's not acceptable at all. That the manipulation of social media is just even more concerned because it's everywhere. It's YouTube, it's TikTok, it's Instagram, it's Facebook, it's everywhere. Okay, so we need more than ever to actually have our critical thinking intact. Okay, that's it from me. I'm going to leave it there. Until the next time, guys, live boldly, live empowered, live from the inside out. Bye for now.